All right, here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, it's another Sunday night. Here in the big city, we got another big podcast. Can't wait. Gonna have to see. There's also some news with Trump. I mean, it sounds like the Strait of Hormuz has been opened. I'm just reading this on X right now. I haven't watched any TV or anything. So we'll have to look at that.
It's reopening.
Yeah, it sounds like it's reopening and back to normal. He says, let the oil flow. That's a good sign. That's a really good sign. There's too many of them. The guy is 80 years old, but... oh, here we go. This is what I want to show you real quick. So anyhow, this is off our X channel here and everything. All right, President Donald Trump, he's 80 years old today. Octogenarian. That's quite the achievement right there. A couple other things to talk about real fast here. I picked this out. I don't know if you can see that or not, but this is the Obama Library. He did a little meme on this. I don't know if you've seen the Obama Library, presidential library, but it looks just like that. But he says it's going to be an absolute garbage can in 10 years. And that's what it's going to look like in 10 years. I thought that was pretty darn funny there. And something else I thought pretty cool was, this is the changing of the guard. This is what it really is like today. MAGA is the new Republican. Rhinos have become the old Democrats. And Democrats are the new communists. And that just seems to make a lot of sense to me, the way that all...
Where's that meme from? I think I need a copy of that.
Yeah, I'll find it. We'll go on our Ohio Political News X account and grab it there.
I'm going to borrow it from there.
Yeah, grab it from there. Bob's with us here tonight. Bob Frantz, how do you do? Good to see you. Can you see me? You can? Okay, good.
Hey, Bob.
And let me know if I got the audio. So you gotta say a few syllables.
No, I apologize. I thought you guys were still chatting and you were just confirming my presence. I didn't know that I was live.
Yeah, I was gonna chat and stuff with Jonathan, but I saw that you were already in the Zoom. So let's just get hopping with the show. Yeah, I'm also
do not let me interfere with chatting with Jonathan. Chatting with Jonathan is always a very good idea, actually.
Well, that's very flattering.
Well, that's
Thank you for that.
But we have Jonathan on all the time, and I don't have you on all the time. So he's going to have to take a back seat tonight. Also, we've got this guy here. He's just somebody slap him a few times. I'm not sure what happened. He's not moving.
He's very pensive.
I don't know. I'm about ready to call 911 at this point. I'm about ready to call 911. And anyhow, it's good to see you. Hey, we got a lot to talk about, but I thought maybe we would start things off. You got a big event coming up a week from tomorrow. You're heading down to Columbus. Why don't you just give us a little bit of information on that, okay? You're teaming up with AFP, right? Americans for Prosperity.
Yeah. Americans for Prosperity Ohio is co-hosting a tri-way, basically, with also the Libre Institute and Concerned Veterans for America for an America 250 event. It's to celebrate America 250, but also, of course, with the Ohio Lean. So about 500-600 people is all they can fit in this event center that they're going to have at the Columbus Crew Stadium on the 22nd. And they have asked myself and a few other folks from around the state to kind of bring a contingent of patriots to Columbus to celebrate and to listen to some fantastic speakers. I've been asked to be one of them, which I'm looking forward to. And the theme is called One Small Step. And, we're going to talk about the small steps that individuals took to get us, where we are, to start it 250 years ago, and then the steps that have been taken by so many individuals to lead us to this incredible milestone. And then what small steps can we take as individuals, as Ohioans, to launch the next 250, and, what it's going to take, what challenges there are to overcome. The challenges that we have before us, for the launch of the next 250, if you want to, still go with that, very different than the challenges that our founders and that our heroes and the Revolutionary, War, the Continental Army, everybody that participated in the liberation of these colonies and the birth of this nation from tyranny. They had their own different types of challenges. It is just as challenging now, but under different circumstances. So what small steps can we all take? So anyway, that's a long story. The short version is we are going to take about 54 patriots from Northeast Ohio down on a bus with me. We're leaving Strongsville. You'll get details shortly after you register, but we're leaving Strongsville at about 3 p.m. So it's just a short day trip. We'll get down there about 5. The event goes from 5 to 8. We'll get back on the bus and have you back by your cars in Strongsville by about 10 o'clock. We want people to come. We want people to fill that bus with 50 plus strong. 54, I think, is what it holds, but 50 strong from Northeast Ohio. And in order to do that, all you have to do is there is a link that is on my social media, my Facebook pages, both Strictly Speaking Unfiltered page and Bob Frantz personal page. It's also on the Locals page, which is off of my Rumble channel as well. And if you can't find it anywhere, you can send me an email to bob@strictlyspeaking.org, and I will send you the link to register, for the event, because some people are driving down on their own. I invited Sheriff Bruce Zukowski to come with us, and he said he can't be trapped on a bus in the event that he is needed, which makes a lot of sense. But he's coming, and he's driving down on his own. But you'll register for the event, and then you register separately for a spot on the bus, and then you'll get an email a couple of days before we, head out, like I said, from Strongsville next Monday. So it's just going to be all part of what is a multi-week celebration of America 250, which, of course, culminates on the 4th of July. So we're really, really looking forward to it. And any of your Ohio Political News viewers who wants to join us, like I said, send me an email, bob@strictlyspeaking.org. We do not want to go down there underrepresented. We want Northeast Ohio strong, full of patriots to go down to Columbus and celebrate this great event.
How many people do you think will be there? Just curious. Any idea
Well,
how
I
many
think
people will be there?
they believe they're going to sell it out. Like I said, excuse me, I think as of a week ago, last time I checked in with AFP, they were at around 225, 250, so about halfway to the sellout point. They believe that more people, as typically they do, people wait until they make sure it's a weekday. So, it's a work day,
Right.
so Monday, leaving at 3 o'clock, some people are going to have to see if they can get off work or leave early or whatever it is. And a lot of people will probably register late rather than early. So I think that's the same thing with our bus. I think we've got about 25, about half of the seats left right now. So we want, was that me? I just heard a screech.
No, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes here. This guy is making all kinds of racket and noise. It's about time you got into your seat, too. Geez,
Hey, can you hear me now?
I hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry I'm late.
No, that's
What
all
a
right.
dramatic entrance.
Yeah, you made your presence known right away.
I'm getting worried. I was getting worried because I just
the
saw you
average
there and you
citizen.
weren't moving.
I don't want to create any fuss or muss. Just little old me from Concord Township. So thank you very much.
All right, and so that sounds terrific. Yeah, this whole event with the 250, it's just amazing. 250-year experiment and everything. I was watching a few podcasts on George Washington, and I'm going to keep watching them because I didn't realize just the complexities of that war. So much happened. And I'll tell you what, Washington lost a few battles, especially the first couple. I don't know if you guys were aware of that.
Yes, he did.
And he almost, the first major big battle, he was so taken by surprise by the British. Now, the British, got to remember, they had the strongest army, they had the best generals, they were fully funded, lots of money, artillery, the works, man. They had everything. He had nothing.
Biggest Navy in the world.
Best Navy, absolutely. Best Navy in the world. And this second battle that he was involved in, he had 10, 12,000 men or something. They snuck up on him. And if it wasn't for an act of God, he would have been defeated right then and there, and that would have been the end of it. This was in 1775. So, a lot of people thought, because I knew nothing about the Civil War, about the American Revolutionary War until I started watching these podcasts and stuff and learning. It's like, wow, I didn't really. I mean, the war was going on in 1775. So when they signed,
can I give you a recommendation?
Yeah, go ahead.
About 2 weeks ago or so, I was up in Oregon, Ohio, which is near Toledo, a little bit past Toledo, actually. And they had a wonderful event there. It was the Toledo Tea Party and the Oregon Conservative Club teamed up to have an event. It was their 4th annual, and I've been invited to speak at a couple of those. And I spoke, our friend from the Civil Rights Commission, Peter Kirsanow, spoke, and we were all completely overwhelmed by the person who stole the show. And the person who stole the show was General George Washington. Not President George Washington, but General George Washington, okay? There's a gentleman who's, I think, from Northwest Ohio. His name is Ken Hammontree, and I'm reaching out to him. I already spoke with him the night of, and I said, you have to come onto my show and do a reenactment of what you just did here. And he agreed to do that. So that's my recommendation, is on my show, my Strictly Speaking Unfiltered show. What he did, guys, he told the story of the crossing of the Delaware and the Battle of Trenton from the first person point of view. He was dressed in full General Washington regalia. And he takes this so seriously, he kind of travels and does these types of presentations. You cannot call him by his name. You have to call him George or General Washington because he stays in character. And he told the story of the crossing of the Delaware that very few people have ever heard. The paintings that we have seen of Washington standing, leading across, holding the lantern and crossing the Delaware, and he was in the middle of that boat on the ground, on the bottom of the boat, trying to stay dry as everybody around him crossed because of the extraordinary circumstances involving the weather there. And what we learned about the men who made that crossing, they weren't men at all. They were boys ages 13, 14, 15, 16. Wow. Many of them had rags wrapped around their feet because they did not have shoes. And they had to make that crossing. And the story leading up to it is extraordinary. The story of the crossing is extraordinary. And the story of landing on the other side and then having to do a 9-mile march to Trenton and then to encircle it because they had no idea that they were coming in order to encompass basically the most powerful military in the world, as you pointed out correctly. And the story of how that went down, like I said, from the first person perspective. He talked about his conversations with General Knox and all of the others who were part of it. It was Joe, you said you don't have a whole lot of, didn't know a ton about the Revolutionary War. Most people don't. We learn it for a couple of weeks, maybe as a part of our, American history class in junior high or high school or whatever. And then we forget about it and we move on because it's ancient history as far as we know. But when you learn some of the specifics like this, it'll change your view. It'll change your view, people. It'll change our view of this country and why it is so worth fighting for this republic because of the sacrifices made that have never been, stories that really have never been told.
Well, one thing I did get out of the podcast was when this initial early on battle where he was almost wiped out. He should have been wiped out. It was an act of God, and there was a lot of certain things that happened. I'm not going to go into all of them right now. But he was able to escape. He was able to get his men out of there. There were 400. Listen to this story real quick. There were 400 militiamen that actually knew how to fight, and they were from Maryland. And the average age in that group was 21. And he basically told the 400 that they got to fight to their death. They've got to keep the British, he's got to keep the British occupied, and he's got to get all his men out or it's over, that we're done. And this is, early on. I don't know, 1775, 1776, something like that. It would have been over. So these guys, these 400 men, they did that. They fought like all day against, they fought to their death, and every one of them just fought like hell. And Washington was able to get his that huge military out of there. But here's the other thing real quick. I never knew this. Washington, he said, they got the best army in the world. They got the best navy in the world. They got the best generals in the world. They've got all this military might. They got all this funding. They got all this military might. They got everything. And he's scraping to get farmers together. He said, but there's one thing we got that they don't. You know what that was?
What?
Time. He said, time is on our side. And and his theory was if he could drag this war out, and it did, it went till 1781, that he could defeat him. And that was his only hope. But there's so much that happened in those 8 years. It's just, you'd have to be talking about it all day long. All right, something else that's going on here. I want to get this up and running because this is hot off the press here. So Donald J. Trump is saying that the deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran is now complete. Have you heard this? I'm just reading it now. Congratulations to all. I hereby fully authorize the toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz and simultaneously herewithin authorize the immediate removal of the United States naval blockade. Ships of the world start. And then he says, the deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran is now complete. Congratulations to all. I hereby fully authorize the toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz and simultaneously herewithin authorize the immediate removal of the United States naval blockade. Ships of the world, start your engines. Let the oil flow! Exclamation point. President Donald J. Trump. I'm just reading that for the first time. Were you aware of that at all, Bob? Did you hear that before?
I've been following it all afternoon. I've been following
okay.
it really for the last couple of days because obviously, I put in my newsletter and here's a little selfish plug here. If you want to get my Sunday morning briefing, it's called Strictly Speaking This Week, my newsletter. Please, again, send me an email, bob@strictlyspeaking.org, and I will sign you up for it. But I put it in there as my number 2 item of things to know for this week to come. Number 2 instead of number 1, because quite frankly, I don't know what we can trust and what we can believe. President Trump, I think this is about the 38th or 39th time he's declared that a deal is imminent and about to be signed in the last 2 months, and nothing was ever signed. So today, he said, this one I swear is going to be signed on his birthday, on Flag Day, the whole 9 yards, which is, pretty cool, actually. But I was very, very cautious in my optimism that it would get done today. Now that we have been told, and I saw J.D. Vance, Vice President Vance, on with Fox News a little while ago this afternoon, it's been done. So, okay, that's a step past what the last ones have been. He sounds very optimistic that this peace agreement is going to hold and so forth. But I am going to reserve my praise and my hallelujahs for it because we have seen the, Iranians, particularly the IRGC, break agreements before. They have never held to any agreement internationally that they have ever signed. So until I see the quote unquote, nuclear dust being excavated from this, mountainous region and so forth. And until I see, the sanctions holding to the point where they're not funding Hezbollah to launch rockets at Israel anymore. And they're not funding the Houthis in Yemen and yada, yada. Until I start to see the fruit of this agreement, I'm going to remain, like I said, cautious in my optimism because I don't think we can trust them. I would have preferred to have wiped out the IRGC, not the entire population of Iranians, but the IRGC, which is the sticking point in all of this, cannot be allowed to remain in power because they will never honor any agreement. That's my belief.
No, they haven't. And I don't think they've honored agreements for 1,000 years. I mean, this is a unique area of the country when you're getting in with these Arabs and stuff, and they are very unique people. But look at the fighting. They go back and forth with Israel. I mean, how long has that been going on? And it's just they make a peace agreement, and then 2 or 3 days later, they start shooting missiles again. And
yeah,
so we'll have to see what happens with that. Hey, I want to get on to
I will say, Joe, just FYI, oil dropped down to about $85 a barrel from well over 100. Just on the news yesterday and Friday that a deal was likely to be signed on Sunday. So it dropped down in trading to about $85 a barrel. So that's a good thing. Gas prices should start to drop accordingly. And once that gets down to 70 and 65 like it was before, we'll be back to normal as far as our energy cost and therefore our inflation, which, as we know, spiked up to 4.2% year over year. We just got that news at the end of the week. All of that stuff should come down, and that's all very, very good news. But again, how long lasting will that be? That's another story.
We're going to have to keep praying on that one. All right, I want to get into some of this. This is our thumbnail for tonight. Ohio political news, FBI raids in Cleveland, voter fraud probe. And let's just talk about this for a minute. I'll get the other guys in here on the discussion as well. But so federal agents searched the Cleveland, Northeast Ohio office of the OOC, which is the Ohio Organizing Collaborative. They did that on Thursday. And according to reporting, agents seized documents, computer files, laptops. They took phones. They took electronic devices. They took whatever they took the copper plumbing. They took everything, okay? they are trying to find some answers here because of the voter fraud and the fraud-related activity with the OOC. Now, I was looking in at the OOC. They made, in a 5-year period, they made $55 million in donations. That was from 2020 to 2024. $55 million in donations. You're not going to make that kind of cash unless you are producing, if you get what I'm saying, okay? And a lot of it had to do with voter registration and everything like that. All right, before I open it all up, I want to just listen to a congresswoman. So this is Chantel Brown, who had a few things to say. Let's just listen to this real quick
Trump's
here.
FBI raided Cleveland and sent federal agents across the state to harass Ohioans who did nothing more than help their neighbors register to vote. This is a...
you got to go out there and harass the Ohioans. That's all Trump is doing. This cracks me up. Nothing about that they have an actual search warrant to go into that office and everything else. Nothing to say that they had to get that from a judge. They had to have probable cause. They had to spill out what the FBI had to spill out what they were going to do when they got there and everything. So this OOC is in hot water, man. They are in hot water.
Diabolical abuse of power. And let's be very clear about what's happening here. Donald Trump is once again weaponizing the federal government to intimidate political opponents, to interfere in the midterms, and to ice voter registration, especially in black and brown communities.
Especially in black and brown communities. And she goes on and on and on about the black and the brown, the black and the brown. Well, what about white people, too? I didn't know that the Democrats were exclusively black and brown, and that's their voter base, and they forget about the white people. What is going on?
Voter registration is not voter fraud. Urban communities voting is not voter fraud. Black Americans voting is not voter fraud.
Not voter fraud, not voter fraud, and not voter fraud. So let me just get your 2 cents in here for a second. I want to go around the merry-go-round and see what Brian and Jonathan have to say as well. Okay, there's our one of our congresswomen. Listen, the Democrats have 5 seats, congressionally speaking. The Republicans have 10 in the state of Ohio. And we're going to try to knock off Marcy Kaptur, so we get 11. We're going to try to Greg Landsman down there, so we get 12, okay? But if you are a political entity and all you're going to do is just concentrate on the black and the brown people and the hell with the white, that isn't a good strategy, is it?
Well, it's their entire playbook is identity politics. You know that, and I do. We've watched this for years and years and years. They try to paint themselves as being oppressed minorities, the party of oppressed minorities, solely to get those minority groups to continue to vote for them in overwhelming numbers. Donald Trump took a big bite out of the black and brown vote, if you will, that the Democrats have always been able to count on in 2024. And so they're trying to get them back. And no one in the FBI has ever suggested. Secretary of State Frank LaRosa made a statement about this, has never made a suggestion that they're targeting black and brown voters. They're targeting fraud. Where is the fraud? Let's follow the fraud. Wherever it goes is where it goes. It is not targeted at any person of color, or any person of any race or ethnicity or sex or anything of that nature. It's about following. It's kind of like with the fraud in the Medicaid game and all of these daycare centers and the supposed hospice centers and so forth. Well, we follow the fraud. Where did it lead? It led to these buildings all around Columbus that, 84 different hospice businesses in one complex. And all of them are basically boarded up. Nobody answers the doors. There's nobody there. Well, we followed that fraud. And what did we find? A whole ton of Somalis. So how do the Democrats dodge the fraud and change the story? Oh, you're picking on these black, Somali Americans or Somali immigrants here. So it's the only thing they can do to honestly try to tamp down the real story, or to change the narrative of the real story, which is the fraud, by saying it's Republicans, Donald Trump, and Kash Patel's FBI trying to pick on brown and black people. It's all they've got.
Yeah, that's about all they got. I want to go around the horn here. Brian, how you doing tonight?
Great. Thanks, Bob, for joining us today. I always appreciate your comments. I think about Governor DeWine's statement about fraud as just being a cost of doing business in Ohio, and I find that that really appalling. And what I don't understand is it just this is what happens in government, and we're just so large that we cannot determine who is supposed to get the actual disbursements, whether Medicaid or anything else. It just seems like we start these programs and it just goes out, but nobody's doing any checking. There are no checks and balances in our system, and this fraud, waste, and abuse it just hurts all, whether they're black, white, brown. That's irrelevant. To me, they're all citizens, and something needs to be done at the State House. This cannot continue.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot.
If we're going to Jonathan for the next comment, go ahead.
Jonathan, hey, how's it going?
Good. All right, so you've covered a lot of ground here. I've made some notes. A couple of things. Going back, I'm going to interject a suggestion to our listening audience. If you have kids anywhere near you, look up Project Appleseed. I just pulled up the website. Some people refer to it as Appleseed Project. It is a 2-day shooting event that ties in the foundational history of our country. It's amazing for kids and adults. If you have, I don't care who it is, a grandkid, niece, nephew, if you have kids near you, because part of the problem, and Brian alluded to it, Brian referenced it, many of us don't really understand the founding of our country. That history is kind of blurred and lost. Let's bring it back. And by all means, absolutely, we got to bring it back for the next generation. This is an event. They take place all across the country all summer. They fill up quickly, but it's a really exciting event. It moves from like the classroom environment of lecture to, I'm telling you, kids are so enthusiastic. They are like hands shoot up in the air with answers to questions, and they learn all about the foundation of our nation, and it sticks. It's a really exciting way of tying two things together, and look it up. You'll want to know more about it. It's Project Appleseed, and hopefully in the future we have a next generation that comes up understanding the importance and significance of our history. The next thing is, Brian, you were talking about Iran, the Strait of Hormuz. I want to interject some perspective that has occurred to me as I've looked more and more into Iran. To put things in perspective, I'm going to introduce a little context or a little personal perspective. I, for the longest time growing up, looked at California as like this super wacko, liberal, far left, blue, progressive, whatever. As I've learned and looked at the actual California, it is a great, beautiful, wonderful, patriotic country that is captive. They're captive to some giant blue dots. California is a red state. You look at California, the composition of it, it is full of beautiful, wonderful, amazing American patriots. Many of us don't understand that, and we don't recognize it. The same holds true in Iran. If you actually look at Iran, most Iranian people, the ones that I've come across and had occasion to speak with, Iranians are a captive nation. They have a terrible, terrible government that is manipulative. So many people right now are in this kind of mental position of throwing Iran as a nation and all her people into this category of like they're all chanting death to America and they want to blow up ships, and it's not. We need to look to some of the nuance in that region, and I'm encouraging everybody listening to don't assume anybody connected with Iran is bad. Look at the deaths. Their government is killing. What was it, in a 3-day span? They killed like 30,000 of their people because they were out protesting for their own rights. It is a treacherous place. But I wanted to interject that so we don't go too far down that path of like, well, those Iranians, they're all just terrible people. It's not the case. The last thing on that OOC, the voting, the FBI raids and all that, if you're not already following Marcel Sturbich, go out there and follow him, because Marcel, you'll remember his name as the guy who ran for Secretary of State in Ohio, pardon me, he unfortunately didn't win. I was pulling for him. I wish he had. I was hoping that he would win that race and clean things up in our elections. But he is continuing to get after it, and he's making a lot of comments. Some of his posts over the last few days have put this OOC and the FBI investigations into a good perspective. He's very knowledgeable on this, and it does connect to something that may ring a bell, and that's Black Fork. You've heard us talk on this show over the years about investigations that should take place into a company called Black Fork. Black Fork is one of those companies that goes out there and they do voter sign up. They sign people up for on the voter rolls. They are alleged, and I don't actually know off the top of my head the status of the investigations, but they are alleged to have done all kinds of bad things and are ginning up fake enrollments in our Ohio voter rolls. So stay tuned on Black Fork, this OOC investigation, and that, who was that, Chantel Brown? That's ridiculous. Just dismiss that. If you're on social media, go and find that and add some laughing emojis and cut her to shreds, please, because she's being ridiculous. Those are the things that I wanted to throw in. Thanks.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Let's move on to a different topic here, unless there's something else that needs to be said about that.
I would like to respond just for a second to not even respond to, because it was spot on, but really more just to to buttress what Jonathan just said about the Iranian people. Has anybody ever seen the videos of the streets of Tehran and other cities in Iran prior to 1979?
No.
It was a hustling, bustling, normal country. I mean, women wore normal dresses, and before the Islamic takeover and the Islamic Revolution and the this theocracy that they created there, the people of Iran didn't want anything to do with anybody else, meaning to harm anyone. They had no interest whatsoever in trying to push or force their ideology or their theology on anybody else around the world, anybody else in the region, or anywhere else. It was a normal place until the Islamic Revolution. So just to back up what Jonathan said, the people of Iran are not our enemy, and they're not anybody that we should have a problem with or fear or whatever. It is the leadership, the IRGC, clearly, and the mullahs that actually run, and the Ayatollah, of course, and the new Ayatollah that keep the their sandal on the throat, if you will, of the people. Some 30 or 40,000. Jonathan, I think, lowballed it a little bit, but maybe it's closer to 40,000 Iranian citizens finally cast off their burqas and their hijabs and so forth, and they went out and protested in the streets and wanted their country back. And the government executed them, close to 40,000 of them. So nobody would ever dare speak out against them again. And when new individuals started to rise up and get ready to push back again, they cut off their communication by destroying the internet, by making sure nobody could communicate with one another, to create another resistance, if you will, against the government. So just a point, Iran is our enemy as a nation and as a nation state, but it is not the people of Iran. They want them. That's why they welcomed the bombing. They welcomed Operation Epic Fury. And that's why some of the other Arab nations in the region did as well, because they knew Iran is the focal point, because of the government of Iran, of all of the problems in the Middle East, not the people of Iran. So I just wanted to hit that a little harder, because Jonathan's spot on about it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Thanks,
okay,
Bob.
yeah, it is more of the military. Now, when Trump dropped that first big bomb, he wiped out like the top 40 people in Iran, military and presidents and their whole hierarchy. So now they're at number 41 and stuff. But yeah, that whole regime, it's diabolical. It's evil to the core.
And Joe, the people cannot fight back. The people do not have the right to bear arms, and so they can just protest, but they can't really have an uprising. Just protesting, as you say, they'll just cut them down. So I hope we do not take our Second Amendment rights here in this great country, for granted, because that's what happens when you don't.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Yeah, the Second Amendment rights. And also, now those 40,000 were protesting, so I guess you better get permission and say pretty please and everything else, because if they don't like the protest, even if there's 40,000 of them, they're going to gun you down. And I was told.
Well, look at the compare. I mean, we have a perfect comparison here. We were just talking about the Revolutionary War. We were just talking about how we protested against British tyranny, taxation without representation, and so much more. And had we been like the people of Iran, unarmed, we wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. The only way we were able to fight off the most powerful military in the world with a bunch of farmers and so forth was that we at least had access to arms. And then we finally got some artillery. We had none of those things and were able to fight back on an even basis, which is why when they wrote the Constitution, that was the Second Amendment, for crying out loud. It was so important. It was literally after the right to speak freely and to express ourselves freely is the right to protect ourselves from any of this crap from ever happening again. Everyone is allowed to bear arms to protect themselves against whatever threat there may be, including their own government. The people of Iran don't have that. We did and still do, and it's why we remain where we are. People need to recognize that.
Let's talk a little bit about the Republican Party here. I got this off your show. Okay, so let's just listen to this for a second. You were talking to Al.
We, as Republicans in the state, don't know how to wield power.
There's absolutely zero reason that.
I want to just reiterate that a second there, Bob. You were saying that the people, we have a majority. The Republican base is a majority, but we don't know how to yield power. We don't. That's what this whole conversation is about. We're acting like rhinos and Democrats when we have a supermajority.
What our House and Senate and executive branch looks like, that we cannot push the conservative movement. There's zero excuse for that, and we need to do better at making sure that we're forcing the issue. I mean, we are leaving so much on the table, whether you're dealing with property tax issues, medical freedom issues, 2A issues, voter integrity issues.
Okay, so. Any thoughts on that? I know you were talking to Al, and it was a pretty good discussion and all that.
Yeah, he's a very good senator. He was a great representative. He's a great senator now, and I'm glad he's there because he gets it. And he was one of the most courageous people stepping up to say we cannot pass that SJR 10 and put this in the Constitution, or put it up for a referendum on the Constitution to get photo ID for voting rights unless we include all voters, not just those in person. He said we should not pass this. He was a strong opponent, even though he's for, of course, photo ID, but he was stepping up to say if you don't include, and ultimately they did then have a separate vote, was it 427 or something, to include mail-in balloting. But Al Catrona is a part of what I'm talking about. He's a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. I think you misspoke a second ago, just tripped over wield and said yield. We do know how to yield power. We gave the Democrats way too much power when we did the Blue 22 thing. We know how to yield power just fine. We don't know how to wield it. We don't know how to use it and to make it work for the people that we represent, or I'm sorry, that they represent. When I say we, I guess I mean the Republican majority are supposed to represent the majority of Ohioans who put them in power in every statewide office and in the supermajority of the legislature. We don't know how to use it. And I make comparisons all the time. Every time I see a new bill passed through the Florida Republican-led Florida legislature and immediately signed, and boom, let's go from the governor. I'm just like so envious of what it's like to have that kind of majority and say we're going to do the conservative thing, we're going to do the responsible thing, the constitutional thing, and the things that are going to make our state better, and not be playing these insider games that sadly far too many of our Republicans who are not conservative. Yeah, I hate to overuse rhino. I know Jonathan will use it because he does Ohio Rhino Hunters, but I hate to overuse that term, but we're talking about straight up Democrats wearing the R solely so that they can undermine what we're doing from within. That's the problem with Ohio Republicans.
Yeah, we got that in the Senate as well. And real quick on this whole voter ID thing, real fast. So it looks like the constitutional amendment is going to be for photo ID when you go to vote in person. That's what the constitutional amendment is going to be, that we're going to be voting on. But they did pass a bill. Well, they passed a bill out of the Senate and out of the House, and it's sitting on Governor DeWine's desk right now. And if he signs, it would become law. And this would require photo ID for mail-in ballots.
Yeah.
So, I think we're moving in the right direction with that. Now, when we go
Except,
back,
except for one thing, and I apologize. I don't mean to dominate your conversation. You guys are fun to listen to, but I just find myself in a position here. Except for the fact that since that would only be legislation, it can be changed by a future Ohio General Assembly and a Democrat governor, which, if we're not careful, may be happening a lot sooner than people realize. And that can be changed then as far as mail-in balloting. So I don't want to mess around. If we were going to enshrine into the Constitution photo ID for in-person balloting, I would have preferred for all of that to be in the Constitution for mail-in as well. The fact that we kind of did an addendum here, like, oh, okay, well, we'll also pass a bill this time, not a part of the resolution in the, for the people to vote on for the Constitution, but we'll pass a bill here. Again, we all know that legislatively things can change by future, majorities and a different governor, and that's the one problem with that.
Yeah, well, okay, I got you there. Well, okay. So, but at least I was in line with the constitutional side and then the Ohio Revised Code side. So there will be a law in 2027 if Governor DeWine signs it for photo ID.
Yeah,
but here's a
Joe,
point, and then I'll go to you guys here in 1 second. But circling back to the very beginning of the conversation, we were talking about the FBI raid and all that. You're looking at an organization, OOC, and they specialize in mail-in balloting. They specialize in, doing some hokey stuff, all right? Now, there hasn't been any fraud that they've been accused of yet, but FBI is not there just because they have nothing else to do, okay? 100 agents descended upon it. They're not there just because they have nothing else to do. But... And again, I said they get $55 million in a 5-year period. They're getting this money because they have found loopholes in the mail-in balloting. Just because you sign somebody up in 2020 and give them phony ID and phony social security numbers and everything doesn't mean they have to vote in 2020. You could hold on to that information for 2 or 4 years and then vote. I don't think the board's going to catch them. I don't think the County Board of Elections would catch anybody like that, because they've been in the system for multiple years. Maybe that's part of the game that they play. Let's go around here. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, the one question I have is, and this has been a problem for a while, how do we ensure that it is a citizen that is actually being registered to vote? Is that's not mandatory anywhere, is it?
Well, I don't think Ohio checks to see if they're a citizen very well, do they? Do you know any of the ins and outs of the voting there, Bob?
I know that we would have this problem solved if we would just pass the damn SAVE Act, Save America Act, which, of course, we know we had a shot at the last vote-a-rama that they had, and we had a shot at getting that in there, except for four lunatic Republicans who voted with the Dems. And you know who they are, Murkowski, Collins, and McConnell, and Tillis, and so that would require everybody nationwide to prove citizenship before they can be allowed to register. But individually, obviously, as a state, I don't know what steps they take to prove citizenship before they register. But to your point, they're complaining. Well, there's no proof of any fraud. Well, there's a reason an investigation has been launched. And investigations by the FBI. You just said it, Joe. They're not because they just don't have anything better to do. You can't launch an investigation without probable cause. There had to be probable cause of fraud taking place in these registrations, or else they're not down here raiding offices. So probable cause will be what they'll present. Eventually, I'm sure we'll get a public statement and a press release from Kash Patel or whomever is in charge of this particular thing in the FBI. But they're not, like you said, they're not just going fishing and saying, let's see if we can catch any fraud in Ohio. They had a direction.
And you don't uncover anything until the feds come in, it seems like. Because if you look at the Medicaid fraud, we had it wasn't for Luke Rosiak coming into Ohio and doing his YouTube camera investigative reporting, and Mahek Cook and a few others, nothing happens. We have a Medicaid task force here in the government. Okay, it's part of the Attorney General's office. They got a lot of people. They got a lot of salaries. They got a lot of pensions. They got, vacation time. They got a lot of money invested in that fraud unit. They're not catching anything, nothing substantial. Not when the numbers are $4 or $5 billion. They're not catching anything. So the state constantly is telling us there's nothing to see here. But the feds come in and give us a different story, or an investigative reporter gives us a different story on that. So I'm glad to see that we've got some of the feds coming into town. The cavalry.
Yeah, thank heavens. It took me a minute to scroll back. I dutifully hopped into Marcel Sturbich's feed on X because I want to try to get this as correct as possible. Marcel is he's bird dogging this whole issue of the voter ID regulations, of voter ID laws. And so to paraphrase, it's my understanding that what ultimately was pushed through is a lot of smoke and mirrors. It has a lot of flash, but very little teeth to it. And so my understanding, and there's a post, if you're on X, you should go back and read this post and the things connected to it in the comments from 3 days ago from Marcel Sturbich on X, that reads, Ohio, now you can thank your state legislators for passing a bill to close the mail and absentee photo ID voting loophole that should not have existed in the first place since 2022, and ask them why they voted to exempt practically the entire population from still providing photo ID. So what I'm getting from this thread and what Marcel Sturbich is saying is that on its surface, this looks like this great thing to pass and work its way through, and that ultimately there are so many carve-outs and exemptions to enacting or enforcing these voter ID laws that it exempts practically anybody, that virtually anybody out there could say, well, I don't really want to follow those, so therefore I'm going to check this box and do this other thing instead of providing photo ID. So it's not as cut and dry as you might think. And to put that into context, recently, just after the May 5th elections, I actually put in a records request for a local voting precinct and found 16 absentee ballot requests for one address very near me. All 16 of them have two different handwriting on them. All 16 appear to have been filled out by somebody other than the voter. And so let's kind of sequence that. We have companies out there like Black Fork and this OOC, this umbrella organization that can go out there and register voters, arguably, allegedly, without the voters being even involved, that they can submit big packets of information, get voters onto Ohio voter rolls without their knowledge, get them, then once they're on the voter rolls, there's clear examples, and I've just found one near me in Geauga County where people are collecting absentee voter ballots without even being involved themselves. So let me put that in a clearer context. Sorry, there's a lot to unpack there, but I have one address near me where 16 different ballots were issued, and it appears that not one of them was filled out by the voter. And tracking back to how they originally got onto the voter rolls, it's arguable that maybe some of them, or some people throughout Ohio, never lifted a finger or engaged with a document to get onto the voter rolls. That is a porous system that is rife for abuse.
Is that address an apartment complex or just a home, a residence?
That is actually an assisted living facility, which tend to be a prime target. That's why I asked for it. It's an
Got it.
assisted living
I just heard
facility.
16. I'm sorry. I just heard 16 people registered to one address, and I thought that's a pretty packed home if 16 voters are living there and all registered. So,
and
I thought
hopefully they have more than one restroom too.
Well, yeah, you certainly
Hopefully
hope
they
that
got
they
more
have
than one restroom, for crying out loud.
More than one restroom. But the reason I ended up looking into that is because I know from prior experience that assisted living facilities and mental care facilities, anything that has any short-term or long-term residency connected to it, are a a target. They're a vector of attack for people manipulating votes. So I asked
Just like
for
the
these
homeless.
and was surprised with
Just like the homeless.
are another good one. Yep.
Spot on, Jonathan. Yep, they target people who are vulnerable. You may not necessarily have all of their faculties for one reason or another. Some of the things that afflict people who are homeless, that happens. And certainly you're right. In some of the memory care or dementia care or just old age, assisted living homes where just people are forgetful and they don't know what they're signing or what they're doing. They are prime targets. And that is that's a tragedy.
It is.
Well, Bob, why don't you just give us the details again on your event coming up a week from tomorrow, and
Sure.
what you're doing with that. And again, I appreciate you coming on. Really enjoy it, man. The time just flies when you're on, but
Well,
Yeah,
actually,
well,
Joe,
that's-
I'm going to
that's
interject
the way it
that I will be on that bus.
are you okay?
Yep.
Very good.
I'm
Oh,
hopping
Jonathan,
on
I didn't
Bob.
know you confirmed. I invited you and you said maybe you could make that. And I'm so glad to know that you're going to be there. That is
I
fantastic.
believe I'm
appreciate
confirmed.
that.
I actually spoke with
Awesome.
Angela Manarino from AFP, who confirmed my invitation. I'll have to make sure that the
Fantastic.
bus piece is there, or I'll have a hard time keeping up with you on the freeway.
We will we'll make it happen. I'll make sure that you're on it. I'll get you a seat next to me. So the bus that Jonathan's talking about is, again, it's going to be leaving from Strongsville a week from tomorrow on Monday, the 22nd, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's a day trip down to Columbus to celebrate America 250. There's a multi-week, there's a big fight night tonight, by the way, starting very soon at the White House. As we all know, UFC, it's just a big celebration of
Right,
Americana.
right.
You got UFC fighting at the White House. So it's a multi-week thing. Ours is going to be on the 22nd. And like I said, that bus is going to leave Strongsville at 3 o'clock, arrive in Columbus at 5, have an event from 5 to 8 filled with fantastic speakers. I've been blessed and honored to be asked to be one of them. And then boarding the bus again at 8 o'clock, back in front of, back at your cars in Strongsville by 10. And, everybody's good to go. So it's a fantastic event hosted by Americans for Prosperity, which is a proud sponsor, by the way, of my program, Strictly Speaking Unfiltered, which is live streamed every morning from 7 to 9 a.m. Also, the Libre Institute and Concerned Veterans for America. Those are the three named sponsors of this very important event. So not only will we celebrate America, but we will discuss what it means to take one small step. That's the theme of the event. One small step that we can all take to make sure that we are priming this glorious republic for the next 250, for the generations to come. Our work right now is going to have a massive impact when they celebrate America at 500. And what would that be called? The quinticentennial, I think is what that would be called.
I'm not
we're
worrying
doing
about it right now. Yeah.
well, we're doing our part right now to celebrate our 250, but it is literally our responsibility to make sure that that continues on going forward. And so that's what we're celebrating. Anybody who wants to be a part of that, send me an email is probably the best way. Send me an email, bob@strictlyspeaking.org. If you would like me to send you the link to register for the event in Columbus and a spot on the bus with Jonathan and myself and a bunch of other patriots, please send me that email and we will get you taken care of.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun. So it's a week from tomorrow. It's next Monday. So this, so people could be watching this on a recorded, obviously. So it's Monday coming
The
up.
22nd.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot. Really appreciate you to give you the fanfare there. You deserve it.
Look at that. Get that confetti off me.
Yeah, we had to drop it. We had to go into your studio and have it fall like that. So it's we spare no expense. But hey, thanks again for coming on, Bob. We'll be talking to you soon, and love working with you and talking to you and everything else. So keep up the great work. Appreciate
I
it.
always appreciate the invitation, guys. Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
All right. I don't know if Kent, are you out there tonight, Kent? Kent. I don't think he's out there tonight. But I do want to say if you're watching this on, if you're watching on any platform, please subscribe. But especially if you're watching it on YouTube, please subscribe. We're trying to build up the YouTube channel. So please subscribe, and
Click that like button.
Click
share
the
it.
like button and all that kind of stuff. So we would really appreciate it. But we got to keep this show rocking and rolling and moving along, and we are not going to stop for anything. Hey, it's Linda Caudill. How are you tonight? Good to see you.
Hi, Linda.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
You had a big day on Friday.
Yes, it was a big day. We swept 4 state central committee races in Hamilton County. That was like a very, very huge win, and we had a lot of establishment money thrown against us, and we still pulled it off. But Christian Mays managed to keep his seat.
Great.
And I beat Michelle Schneider, and Becky Foster beat Linda Matthews, and John Caponeri beat our county party chair, Russell Mock.
Unbelievable. So you guys, wow, you put forth quite the effort to pull that off, because there's some big names you had to knock off. Michelle Snyder was probably not an easy one. That was your opponent, right?
It was not an easy one to do, because she is wealthy, and she did have some people funding her as well. But what I had, going in my case, I did mailers, she did mailers. I did text messaging, she did text messaging. She did some radio ads that I didn't do, but I had the ground game. She did not have the ground game. And prior to my running, I had gone out and recruited 120 new Central Committee people. Wow. And that was the deciding factor that got all of us over the finish line. We had all these polls covered. We created a slate card, a grassroots slate card that had Jay Edwards and Marcel and Vivek and Husted on it. And that slate card and having those polls covered was the key. But yes, we were very, very happy to win these races. The establishment's heads were exploding. They were not happy we won, but we'll see if we can do any difference at State Central Committee. We could be marginalized there. We could be stuck on a committee with no voice. Only time will tell what's going to happen, but we're still going to keep trying to do what we need to do down in Hamilton County to turn our county red. So
yeah, you're in Hamilton County. Is that where you're at?
I'm in Hamilton County. I live in the suburbs. I'm in District 8, which is the same district that Alex T is in. But Becky and John are in the inner city part. And then Christian is in a suburb in the northeast part of the county.
I got to tell you something. So that's some real strong conservatives. All you guys are very strong conservatives. So that's wonderful. Yeah, that is wonderful. And some of the people that have been on the committee a long time are like, "What the hell happened?" But I'm glad to see that. But you're going to have to expound a little bit. I'm going to let these guys ask you some questions here, and because what she accomplished and others like her is just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I say congratulations to that. But now I want to ask. I want to ask how the Central Committee. How does the Central Committee change the thought process of our leading Republicans in the executive branch, or even in the legislative branch? How does the Central Committee? Can you change the thought process of the leading Republicans? Because quite frankly, I'm not sure Ohio is going in the right direction.
Well, I don't know. I know Butler County just flipped their county party, and it's now being run by conservatives. Warren County maintained their conservatism. We tried to recruit enough Central Committee people in Hamilton County that we could have flipped it, but we were just a little bit short. We now have 45% of the Central Committee. Can we do anything? I don't know, but we certainly can block stuff if we don't like a particular endorsement or whatever. 45% can try and do some blocking, but we're still going to try and recruit some more people. But the Central Committee that just got elected are on for 4 years, so our best bet is to still recruit some more and get them appointed, and we'll just see if we can get it done.
Yeah, it's quite.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say the one issue that I'm, working on, being the property taxes. It amazes me that we could have the great Republicans in the Summit County area that are totally supporting. Same thing with Mahoning. But then you get up here in Lake County in our backyard, and you've got a senator and the treasurer of the county just poisoning the well. So the Republicans are certainly not joined at the hip.
Right.
I know we've talked about it a lot, but it just seems like it's going to take forever to change the direction of the state, because
I think
we're not
you're right.
running anything.
I think we're going to do it incrementally. That's all we can do. It's just incrementally. Nothing's going to flip overnight. And I told all my people in Hamilton County the same thing. Don't expect the day after the election that all of a sudden something's different. But, they know we're there. They can't ignore us anymore. So I think that's huge. So, before we won all these Central Committee seats and before we won these state Central Committee seats, they could ignore us all they wanted. I don't think they can do that anymore. So,
I do think that's important, because I think the legislators and the executive branch, they're ignoring the average citizens in the state of Ohio. So I guess that's we're headed in the right direction. It sounds like, but with only 45%. Does that mean it's going to take us another 4 years to make some changes, or can we do it before that?
No, we can. I have the ability to find and recruit some Central Committee people and get them appointed.
Okay.
But I'm going to have to get them appointed in areas where there is not an establishment ward chair who can block it. So if I can recruit some more in the city where there are no establishment ward chairs, then I have a better chance of getting more on Central Committee. But I think their side is going to try and do that too. I think when we walked into that reorganization meeting and we were half the room, they were not happy at all. They had frowns on their face and they were not happy. It was a very contentious meeting. But now that it's over, I'm going to see if we can work with our new party chair. He was not the one I supported to be the party chair, but he won. And we'll just see if he's going to work with us or not, or whether he's going to dig in.
Lena, let me ask you a question here. Now, you said that you recruited 120.
Mm-hmm.
You recruited 120 precinct people.
Right.
Now, with an army like that, you could win a congressional seat, I would think. I mean, 120 precinct people working with you. How the heck, pardon my French, how the hell did you do that? Tell us. Tell me. I'm dying to know.
Okay. Well, first of all, we have 563 precincts. And a year ago, the party had about 270 of them filled. But then when we lost a bunch of elections in November, some of those people got ticked off and didn't run for re-election. So I made the idea in my head that I was going to try and recruit about 200. Because that would have given us a majority. What I did, first of all, is I tried to analyze all the precincts. I looked at, for instance, precincts where Jim Renacci won rather than Mike DeWine. So I thought those might be more conservative, or I might be able to find people that don't like the establishment. So those were the precincts I targeted first. I also targeted precincts that were vacant. I developed a postcard, and the postcard basically was pretty generic. It just said, "Thank you for voting. Would you like to help make Hamilton County great again?" And it had my phone number. Now, in business, if you send out a mailer, you're going to get about a 10% return. That's what I got. I got about a 10% return. I sent out 500, and or not 500. I sent out about 1,000, and I got about 100 back. And they were interested. I told them what the job entails. Yes, they would be willing to do that. So we helped them fill out their petitions. They had to get 5 signatures to get on the ballot, and that's what we did. And then the other 20, we were able to recruit from people we knew.
So let me ask you another quick question. So the people that you were recruiting, okay, to get on the committee, the central committee and all that, not the state central. We got to clarify
the
this.
Central committee.
The county committee. You were getting people on the county committee, not the state committee.
Right. The precinct executives. Yes.
Okay, but now how did they help with you winning the election? That's what I was kind of curious about. How did they help you?
Because they covered polls that were vacant. So, I mean, for years, we've had 70% vacancy in the precincts, 70% vacancy. And I checked around the state. I checked Cuyahoga, Franklin, a bunch of other counties. Nobody had 70% vacancy but us. We were the worst. So,
now you're down in Cincinnati.
Well, yes, Cincinnati, there's the urban core and then there's the suburbs. So I'm in the suburbs, but I filled people in the suburbs and in the city. I filled probably 80 of them in the city. We had absolutely no representation in the city, none. But
you're taking this in your own hands. So you were working around. Were you working around the chairman down there to get these people on the committee and everything like that?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, this sounds like something up your alley, there, Jonathan. Go ahead.
Well, it absolutely is. Thank you for doing what you're doing, and welcome back on the show. Precinct committeeman is the most powerful position in all of government that nobody's ever heard of, and unfortunately, I want to put hopefully in my perspective, in a clear perspective, what all this means, what we're talking about. The Republican Party has an internal apparatus that makes it work. And it helps to think of it like the board of directors. The board of directors makes all the decisions about hiring and firing and raises and whatever. Actually, that part of the analogy doesn't work because most of us in the Republican Party who volunteer don't make any money. But we make decisions about how the GOP functions. So let me back up a step and introduce a concept that may be new to some people. Years ago, when I started realizing that all is not right in our country, I looked at our supposed 2 political parties in this 2-party system and was given a great adage, a great line of advice from a friend of mine who knows a lot about politics. She basically said, of the political parties, the Republican Party is like a Sherman tank. The Democrat Party is like a Panzer tank. The Libertarian Party is like a bicycle. It's no offense to libertarians, but you just don't have money or power or connections or the infrastructure. The other 2 supposed political parties do. What that means is that if you want to be the change, if you want to affect change in our great nation, you have to have some sort of political avenue. You have to understand or gain some access to voting and influencing the political party. And of the 2 parties, the Democrat Party's already gone. They turned communist. That gives us the Republican Party. Problems and warts and all. There are overall about half of the Republican Party, the seats, the power, the infrastructure is vacant, about half of it nationwide. Same holds true in our country. In Linda's county, it's disastrous to hear that it was 70% vacant. What that means is that there's a power vacuum, and bad actors can step in and wield power in unfortunate and damaging ways. There are some of us who have been working on that for years. I've spent the last about 4 years partnering with a good friend of mine, Dan Schultz, nationally, and working on precinct strategy, which is just simply educating people about this. Because let's be fair about what I'm talking about here. It's just basic civics. So, to answer Brian's question, backing up a few steps, Brian was asking, Linda, with what you're doing and the efforts that you're making, can you positively impact the GOP? The clear, unequivocal, candid answer to that is absolutely. Absolutely, no question, 100%. Anything that we, the people, want, if we learn to exercise that power, we can have and we can do. Whether or not Linda and her group are in a position of power where they can't be outvoted, they can't be outmaneuvered, they can't be squashed by bad actors. Remember that power vacuum I was talking about? That remains to be seen. So on a county by county level, this battle ensues. It's grinding out. And on a state level, we have a state Republican Party. It's referred to as the ORP, Ohio Republican Party. If left alone, and if we, the people, keep our eyes off of it and ignore it and keep it sort of, if it stays out of sight, out of mind, corruption will grow like cancer. And it has in the past. We've ended up with some really bad people. Getting rid of them is very difficult. So kudos to Linda and others for stepping in. I'm going to interject one thing. Linda, you may not know this. This is astounding to me, and it's a clear sign of the power and importance of Central Committee. So what Linda's talking about, what Linda's doing is at the state level. It controls and influences the state Ohio Republican Party. Within the county, there are many, many people who serve in a volunteer role, and that's sort of the ground level, grassroots volunteer position within that. I've served 4 years as a county central committeeman. I was voted in 4 years ago, and I've been very loud and very vocal and doing a lot for 4 years, including Ohio rhino hunters, educating people about the power that they don't know that they have when in that role. Well, on May 5th, we had our elections. We have a 4-year cycle in my county, and I'm very pleased to introduce the new me. This is a postcard that was sent out. I got some trash mail trashing me, which surprised the heck out of me. Who spends big money on a glossy postcard for a county level volunteer position? But then it got more interesting because in my county of Geauga, there's a murky, cloudy 501c4 dark money pool that came out with a fake slate card. They made a fake slate card and they hired volunteers to hand them out at the voting locations on May 5th. This fake slate card all throughout Geauga County had one precinct they attacked, one person out of the 79 volunteers, me. I'm very pleased to announce that I am the only person in the entire county who had the attack ad postcard and added at the county level. So they put on a bunch of people for important roles like judge and county commissioner and everything. And then, there's this one person over here.
So how many votes did you get? How many votes did he get?
So my precinct in my county received a record-breaking number of votes. And it was far and away the most voted on in the entire county by 41 extra votes. I'm researching now to figure out where the 41 extra votes came from. And on average, I have a card here. It actually gets very interesting, and I've been doing a write-up on it here locally. We've been talking a lot about it on Voice of Geauga and writing up. So I have a write-up on it, all that stuff. So I on average in my county, sorry, this is a little bit in the weeds, but for anybody that's interested, the average win was, I think, 198 votes for Central Committee position in my county. Won. No, it was 126. Sorry, 126. 198 was the extreme high, and there was one precinct that ended up with 203, which was monumental. That's an extraordinary number of votes. 203. My precinct had 244. 244 votes came from somewhere. I don't know where. But
and that was all to knock you off, huh? But it's a voluntary position. It's really bizarre
the amount of money that
this
kind of group put into attacking this. The point in bringing all that up, and Linda, I think you can recognize this. This is usually reserved for state level and paid positions and all that sort of thing. But somebody put big money into trying to silence me, which tells me I'm over the target and taking flack. My point in bringing that up is to emphasize the point. This doesn't happen for somebody that doesn't have a voice and doesn't have power. It's not going to happen. It doesn't happen on somebody's whim. That is a lot of money that somebody spent attacking one person in my entire county.
Yeah, but you know who spent the money, Jonathan. It's the guy that won. I mean, he's the one who's spending the money. It's not going to be somebody who's not running. He's the one who ran against you for a voluntary position. He had to spend the money.
No, he's along for the ride. He didn't throw in his $35,000 or whatever it was. No, he was along for the ride. We know it actually came from out of county, and it's a dark money pool, whatever. Yeah. But the important thing,
they spent $220,000 to take out the four of us on State Central Committee and lost.
Yeah, I got to say something about that real fast.
The lost part is surprising to me. The $220,000, based on what I've seen recently, that doesn't surprise me anymore. It used to, but
it's unbelievable.
Wait a minute. That's unbelievable for a State Central Committee race. Good God! If you're going to spend $10,000 or $20,000 on a State Central Committee race, that's getting off the charts.
No, because of the power. It shows you the power and money influence that comes through those seats.
Yeah, we'll see.
That's exactly it. They knew who we were, and they knew we were influential, and they knew we weren't going to cave to them, and that they could not flip us to be establishment. So they came after us with big guns. Michelle Schneider spent over $50,000 on my race, and then a guy named Jonathan Deaver spent over $100,000 to try and take out Christian Mays.
You're kidding me.
No,
crazy.
Over $100,000. Yeah.
So Linda, I've got to ask the question. Have you gone back and pulled the campaign finance reports to see who was funding all that? I mean, was it a bunch of unions and pharmaceutical companies?
There is no campaign finance on State Central Committee.
Oh, that's right.
There is none.
Yeah, everything's dark money. Right.
But we know who was doing it. We know who was spending the money against us. It was Cam Sagasser, who used to be the political director at the ORP, and a finance guy named Chip Gerhardt, who is also on the finance committee at the ORP. Those two were the money people. They were the ones doing the mailers to try and take us out.
Yeah, but you worked really hard.
They don't want the apple cart upset.
Able to pull that off. Listen, we got a few minutes here. I want to move on to Ramaswamy. So he was out in your area talking about data centers, right? You want to?
Well,
let's hear about that.
Well, the first thing we did was a group of us down in southwestern Ohio met with him first. I brought about 30 people in front of him who were like pooch people who didn't like him. I asked Vivek if he would be willing to meet with people who don't like him and aren't going to vote with him, and he said yes, he would. Well, one of the people that I brought before him at that particular meeting was Sarah Wolf, who's working on the property tax stuff. And he listened to Sarah and agreed to have her meet with him at his house. So we felt like that was somewhat of a win that he agreed to do that. And right after that, he did start talking about property tax stuff. So we contacted him again and said, okay, you met with us with property tax stuff. Will you meet with us on data center? And he said yes. So we have a meeting with him on Tuesday. And I'm not necessarily against data centers. I'm against how they're rolling them out. So
Right.
I think there's got to be a handle on this. And so far, he hasn't been talking about them at all. Not at all. He's been very quiet, although Trump supports data centers and the ORP is out.
Yeah, they
talking
support it as
about.
well. I'm on same wavelength as you are, and that is I'm not totally against data centers, but what I'm against is the pollution, the air pollution, noise pollution, the light pollution, the toxic chemicals that have a possibility of being dripping into our water reserves, all the water that they have to use. So, and everything done by an NDA. So it's just
NDAs?
That's the kind of stuff that
The tax breaks.
the tax breaks are insane. So if they weren't paying, well, listen, they're giving them 15-year tax breaks on property. Where's my property guy at when I'm talking?
Yeah.
These things get 15-year property tax abatements.
Well, did you just hear about that Kasich gave him 40 years?
Yeah, I have heard something about that too. So our beloved Kasich, when he was governor, he said, "Come on in, boys, and bring your data centers, and we're not going to charge you any property taxes for 40 years.
No sales tax. No sales tax.
No
for
sales
40 years.
tax. 40 years."
Yep.
Jonathan, you mentioned the name Jonathan Deaver, and that sparked something in me. And I said, I spoke to a Jonathan Deaver, got to be about a year ago, and he was an attorney. And he called me because he was interested in the property tax. He said, Brian, I can get you some big donors here. I said, well, that's great. We really like that. And he said, what? The only thing that you've got to do, you've got to tell me how many signatures you have so far.
Don't trust him. Do not trust him.
So when I heard that, I said, I'm not going to trust him, and I didn't. So I had no further communication with him. But you mentioned Jonathan Deaver, and that was my one and only time involvement with him.
He used to be a House rep. He used to be a House rep in District 28, and he lost. And he was kind of a never Trumper back then in 16, 17, 18. But no, he's pure establishment.
Yeah, what I would have said to him, Brian, is I would have said, hey, give me the money first, and when I've deposited it and the check didn't bounce or anything, then I'll tell you how many SIGs we got, okay? But don't go telling them the SIGs and waiting on the money. It's never going to come.
No, that's always the indicator for me when they come at me, Brian. I just need to know how many signatures. So that started me on the I'm not telling anybody anything. So we're at war with our legislators. So when at war, you never give the intel to the enemy.
No, never. I'll be happy to report back to you after we meet with Vivek Tuesday, but it's going to be a small group of maybe, kind of a kitchen table, maybe 7 or 8 people. And Darby Bodie, I don't know if you know her. She's one of the people that's going to be at the meeting, as well
Darby's
as Kristen
great.
Mays and myself.
Do me a favor, though. Give us an update after you hear about it.
I will.
And, I take a little bit of this with a grain of salt whenever you're talking to Vivek because he's not the governor yet.
Right.
So he's going to say anything he can to get elected. And, of course, it's much more important after he's elected to have these discussions.
Right.
But
ask him a question for me.
Yeah,
ask him a question for me. And the question I would ask him again, would you sign the petition to abolish wild property taxes? Just ask him. I'd like to know what he says. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sarah did ask him that. I believe that he told her he would.
Well, if he would sign it, I'd be glad to drive down to his house again, and we'll make a big deal of it, and we'll have him on Ohio Political News live streaming signing the petition, and that may just put him over the top. So that would be great.
Oh, that's very good. So so congratulations again, Linda, for being on the State Central Committee, and boy, you really fought hard. There was another guy that I talked to. He spent $30,000. He's another conservative. He had to spend $30,000 to win. I said, "You're nuts." He said, "Yeah, I know it. I know I'm nuts." It's a voluntary position, huh?
I spent 30.
You spent
Michelle
30 as
spent
well?
50 though.
Oh my God.
Yeah, school
I know.
board seats are getting to that point too.
Wow.
Well, school
Wow.
board seats. There were state school board seats. I want to say 2021. I think it was 2021. There were 2 seats that I'm aware of that went for right around $100,000 a piece.
Oh my
school board.
gosh.
For
School
state
board.
of Ohio
Wow.
State School
That's
Board.
Very, very
Hey,
crazy.
so here's while I've got the camera, a shameless plug. Go to unwoke.academy. I've got a series of videos out. The one on data centers will remain up. It's pinned at the top of unwoke.academy through the remainder of the month. We're starting to dig into some of the companies behind data centers. I've got a list here. We get into Equinix, Digital Realty Trust, Applied Digital, Iron Mountain, CoreWeave, and a bunch of others, getting into the money behind the money. And here's a little teaser. Expect many of these to start showing up in your investment accounts. That means your 401k, IRA, in other words. Otherwise, what we're anticipating is that the shift on Wall Street is on. The shift is going to be moving from years of investing in woke to investing in data centers. If you don't like data centers, you're going to want to know about these companies and how to find them and not let your money be used to fund the very thing that you are opposing. And that means all those places out there, the people sticking signs in their yards saying no to data centers. If you say no to data centers, but you allow your savings accounts, your retirement accounts to be diverted into funding the very stuff, then you're defeating your own purpose. That's what we're talking about right now, big time, at unwoke.academy.
All right. Well, thank you for that. All right, peacemaker here, Donald J. Trump. Apparently, he's taken care of the problem with Iran, and the gas prices are going to start going down fast, according to Trump. So we'll see what happens with that. All right, last word. Linda, last word for you. Anything you want to say in closing?
Well, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic and trying to work with the local party. I'm going to see if they are going to dig in and whether they want to maintain their central committee to maintain their power, or whether they're going to do what I want them to do, which is let's roll up our sleeves and let's have worker bees and let's get out there and win elections. So we'll see which way they want to go.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's the main thing. We've got to win elections. That's what it's all about. Hey, thanks a lot. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, Brian,
Joe,
before you sign off, can I make a quick comment? For anybody that does follow Voice of Geauga, tomorrow morning we've got a break on our radio broadcast. So we will not be on WINT, 101.5 FM, 1330 AM. But starting tomorrow morning, same time, you'll find Voice of Geauga on Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube. That's our radio show / podcast. We're a podcast and radio show. Voice of Geauga will be on those platforms tomorrow morning at 7. Hope to see you there.
Yeah, Joe, can I mention something? I will be in Willoughby tomorrow, 3 p.m. Linda O'Brien, Liberty Camp USA. She's done a great job, and she's been working on this project for a couple of years. They're dedicating a couple revolutionary soldiers and Civil War soldiers. She's going to be putting monuments, headstones on their graves. So I'll be there to record it, and we'll we'll bring it to Ohio Political News next week.
Well, thank you, Brian. Yeah, thank you for all you're doing and everything. And I know you got a lot coming up with those property taxes, so we're going to start live streaming that stuff. I think you guys have something coming up. Is it maybe June 17th or something? I think out in Strongsville. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that no, that one has been moved to the end of June, I believe it is now.
A little bit later.
June 30th.
Yeah. Well, okay. Hey, everybody, take care, and we'll be talking to you. You guys, take care. Thanks, Linda. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Good night, all.
I'm grateful that I was a crack addict, and I don't say that with even the slightest bit of irony or I get to approach you, and you get to see all of me. I've just broken down every barrier
be the next
that
president
you could
of the
possibly
United
have
States.
to find a connection with me. That's beautiful.
So, Jessica, real quick, no notes. You have to. You can only pick A, B, or C: Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, or Hunter Biden.
Why?